I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Jon Barbera. He owns PRYME Homes, an investment company in San Antonio, and they rehab over 18 houses per year. They've built 5 homes and have a portfolio of 14 doors. Jon, I really love to let the guests kind of share their story. So first of all, thank you for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you inviting me.
So would you go ahead and kind of tell us your background, sort of what you came from, how you got into construction and real estate, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Sure. So when I was 7 years old, my parents left Argentina. That's where I was born, for the American dream. And grew up, we landed in New York, where they promised us that, you'd be walking down the street and like trip over $500 that somebody just dropped. So, that was obviously,
American dream.
Yeah, that was definitely an exaggeration, of course. And unfortunately for us, we came with a visitor's visa, and those are only good for 90 days. And we kind of overstayed our welcome by probably 20 years. So it's a little difficult as not just as an immigrant, but as an illegal immigrant to do anything really. My dad got a lot of jobs in construction and doing different things. He started a hardwood floor company. And then I was, terrible student, dropped out of high school. There was just no future in it for me. I got into construction, started working there. We took from hardwood floors, we went into renovating kitchens, bathrooms, doing additions, and full-blown rehabs. Started working for a few investors. That's where I learned about real estate, like that real estate investing existed. But doing it in New York, you come across a lot of investors that don't share anything because they don't want to train their competition. So it was just, no help, no information, no nothing. So I started reading books. The first book I ever read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And by ever, I mean ever. I never read a book throughout school. Like I said, a terrible student. I probably had a reading level of like a third grader. So I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, opened up my eyes to so many things that you didn't have to be rich to invest and to be in real estate. Right. So I went down a rabbit hole. I mean, I just started consuming books like animal, just anything on real estate, learning everything about it. And I came across wholesaling. When I came across wholesaling, started with a strategy that they called the 25-to-1 strategy. So you submit, the plan was you submit offers to properties listed on the MLS at 50% of what they're asking. So out of every 25 offers, you get one deal. That was the idea, but putting it into practice, you piss off a lot of agents in the process. A lot of people weren't happy, but I did get one property under contract. It was listed for, I believe it was like 85. I got it under contract for like 42.
And this was still around New York?
Yeah, this was all in New York. This was about probably like 10 years ago is when I really started getting into real estate. And so I got it on the contract for 42. I freaked out. They didn't know what to do. None of the books told you what to do after that. So I went on Craigslist, tried to find a buyer. Some guy said, yeah, I'm interested. He flaked on me. And then I panicked and I didn't want to like piss off anybody else. So I just backed away from the contract. And less than a month later, that property sold for 85 on the MLS. So I was like, yeah, I kind of left some money on the table on that one. So kept going with real estate, but New York was just not it. Like New York is not business friendly. It was after 2008, so the banks had a lot of ghost inventory. It's a lot of properties that people like left. They left the houses, they got foreclosed on, and the banks just held on to these vacant properties. They weren't selling them because they didn't want housing prices to drop. So you had high taxes, high properties, and low rents. So it's just, as for investing, was not an ideal market.
Yeah.
So did some research, found Texas. And out of Texas, I just looked at, I did not want to live near the coast. I'm not a fan of humidity. So in the heat. So I looked at Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio. Dallas and Austin were just red hot. And San Antonio was kind of just slowly and steady coming up. So I was like, well, that just kind of makes sense. Gives me some time to get going. Packed up the car, sold everything else, and just drove down here and landed in San Antonio. And kind of started wholesaling and went on from there.
You really did go sort of all in on it. It's like,
yes,
you read Rich Dad Poor Dad and then moved to San Antonio, Texas, because you thought that would be the best place to invest in real estate. Like that's a big step, I think, for, anyone really, but yeah, just to kind of make that leap of faith that that's going to be the best place for you to, advance your real estate careers is very bold. I think it is just very, and I think it really points to the fact that like most people just won't do that. Most people would have seen that as, oh, well, I live in New York. I guess I can't do this. Like there's no way to make money here in real estate in New York. And people make money in real estate in New York. It can happen, but yeah, it's not easy, and it's not the same, it's maybe not the same strategies that you would have other places. So
yeah, I definitely noticed that from a lot of people. Like they're struggling in their market and everything, and I'm just like, so move, like, oh no,
yeah,
why? I don't know. And I'm like, the hell else are you gonna do? Like, just sitting there and complaining doesn't do anything. Move, like,
No, I mean, it's sometimes it really is that simple, right? Like it sometimes really is that simple. Just, obviously any goal that's sort of really worth pursuing probably comes with some sacrifices. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Right. So, but like, just move. And I mean, you moved to a place that has a more affordable cost of living. Like it's not a crazy move to make. Like now, we talked about this before we started recording, but like now everybody's like, yes, move to Texas. It's amazing. Like that's the trendy thing to do, but it's now maybe isn't the right time if you're trying to get into real estate investing because it's such a hot market. But you picked San Antonio. That was, the more, I guess, accessible type of market. And so what did you do once you got there? I mean, what was your strategy? You started out wholesaling?
Yeah. So again, reading, and this is something that I tell a lot of people, is that the books and these gurus and everything, they need to make things seem much easier than it is. If not, they won't sell anything, right? Yeah. And they've definitely oversimplified wholesaling a lot. And I just thought, well, if this guy from like a town of 500 people in the middle of the United States is killing it, then I definitely got to be able to do something with this. Right. And it's not that easy when you get going, when you get started and you're by yourself. So I tried it. I tried on my own for about a year, and I was just stumbling. I would go to properties, and because I used to be a contractor, I thought that I had it all figured out. Right. I know how to renovate a house. So I just go, I bid it out, everything. It's going to make sense. I wasn't getting anything under contract. Like just nothing was getting accepted. I was way too low for everybody. And I was like, man, what the heck am I missing? So I started reaching out to other investors that are successful. And I was like, hey, let's partner. Like I'll be your boots on the ground. I speak fluent Spanish. I know about construction. I have the time, like, what do you need? And doing that, I found this one group, small family out of Austin, that they were doing marketing in San Antonio, and they needed precisely that. And so they were doing marketing and I was going to see the properties. And on one of them, the guy's dad went with me and they had flipped a lot of houses. And I told him, I was like, look, it needs molding, it needs new kitchen, it needs new doors. He's like, no, not in this area. We're gonna paint the moldings and the doors. We're gonna keep the kitchen. We're gonna just do new paint, flooring, and that's it. And that's when it hit me. I was like, just because I was a contractor did not mean I knew how to invest in real estate. Like looking at it as an investor and is very different than looking at it as a contractor. As a contractor, you do everything new, right? Like the molding is too old, the doors are too old, everything needs to be brand new. As an investor, you understand the market, the area, the section of town that you're in, and you start judging like, well, in this area, you don't have to do that. You don't have to touch this. So all of a sudden, I started just having a flashback on all the no's I got, and I was like, yeah, I could see why. I was severely underbidding, all of these.
All of your numbers included essentially, complete renovations with brand new everything. So I can see how that would definitely change what you could go in terms of offering. So makes sense.
Yeah.
You partnered up with them, which is, again, it's another really good lesson for people like, hey, this isn't working for me. What can I do to change that? And so finding someone to partner with, finding someone who maybe already has some experience in that new market, like all of that is really great advice. And I thought it was interesting, kind of one of the things you said at the beginning was that 25 offers to one rule. To be honest, that sounds pretty good to me. Like if you're going in and making essentially a 50% of asking offer, getting 1 out of 25, I feel like is really quite good odds. So I don't even see that as necessarily a bad, bad success rate. So that seems pretty good.
Yeah, and we actually we were doing that with my business partner. We were doing the 25 to 1 pretty much here in San Antonio. We had a whole MLS offer system built out where we were spitting out probably, 400 offers a month. And we would get about 2, maybe 3 deals, but they were good deals. And it didn't cost us anything to put out all those offers. So it is a good strategy. The market has shifted. That's no longer the case. But, if at the time it did work, it was, you did piss off a lot of people though. Yeah. A lot of people just submitting that 50%, off of what they're asking. Yeah, that got a lot of people upset.
How did you approach that? It makes sense that it made people upset, but I'm sure it made the sellers upset. But I assume also if you're making offers through a broker, they're kind of feeling like you might be wasting their time if you're making these lowball offers. So how did you do that? What were you doing to get 400 offers out? Were you like handwriting out 400 offers, or did you have systems in place for that?
Yeah, so I made a smart decision to partner with my business partner. He's a real estate agent. So all the offers came through him.
Okay.
So we hired a VA, and we, using the job forms and like these services that you have online that automated that you can like fill in contracts. We would just have them go through, find properties that you scroll through the pictures, look that they needed work, and just submit 50% of whatever they were asking, and then we did, it got to a point where that just no longer wasn't producing. It was way too low. So we did modify our offers a little bit more. So we kind of came up with a formula, and then we were doing it that way for a while. And then it just got to a point where you just weren't getting anything worthwhile off the MLS. So probably about 4 years ago, we just stopped doing that. It just was wasting too much time and effort, and nothing really was coming out of it.
And you were doing this with the intent to wholesale or to flip those houses?
At the time, we started with only the intent to wholesale because we didn't have anything. But once we got into flipping and everything, we were looking to keep them and rehab them ourselves.
So I guess maybe talk about that transition. If you said about 4 years ago that sort of offer system stopped working, what did you do next? How did you transition from there?
So we struggled a lot with marketing when we were starting off. As wholesalers, the number one job you have is to generate deals. Mm-hmm. You got to be able to generate leads. That's primarily, you can't wholesale something you don't have, right? And we were just bad at generating leads. We were great at monetizing them. We were good at, I'm really good. My unique ability was building rapport with homeowners, getting properties under contract, all of that. Like I was good at doing that. And my business partner, he's really good at the back end stuff, doing the title work, making sure, there's, if any problems, sorting them out, getting it to close. So we were just kind of rocking and rolling doing that. But we were just so bad at marketing. And once we figured out, all right, we really need to transition to something else. So we went into flipping houses. And we would buy the houses from other wholesalers, agents, our own network. We would do we still do a lot of networking. So we were just getting deals from everybody else that was doing the marketing, and they were good at it. So they would generate the deals, and we were the ones buying it from them. And then, we went ahead and flipped them and did whatever we needed to do.
Okay. And I guess with your construction background, flipping them probably came pretty easy. I know you said you sort of realized what that means as an investor versus a contractor. So you made that adjustment in terms of what your finishes would be. How did your bio said you're flipping 18 houses a year. How did you kind of scale that up? How did you build your company from there? So
our biggest challenge when we started flipping houses was contractors. We all wanted to find that GC that we can work with. And it's just in single family residential, you don't get that quality of contractor. And you tend to get a lot of people that, just because they own a drill and a hammer, they call themselves a GC. But they don't know how to price projects. They don't know how to manage their subs. They don't know how to source materials. So it was a tremendous learning curve where we wanted to kind of, find a good GC that's like, hey, you handle the construction, we'll keep feeding you projects, right? Mm-hmm. That never worked. So I started doing some of the management, but quickly on, being from New York and how I am and everything, I was hurting too many people's feelings with these contractors. So it got to a point where it was becoming very inefficient. I would show up at a job site. Everybody would just stop working, and they would just wait until I left so they could continue working. And they kept getting nervous, and it wasn't going anywhere. So my business partner, he's from Kansas, so he's much more mellow. He knows how to talk to people like that. So it managed them. So he took on the project management role, and he's right now, from then till now, like he's been our project manager. So he focuses on managing all the renovations, everything like that. And I focus on marketing now, generating deals, finding deals, and doing the front end of it. So, that whole learning curve, that's why when people tell me, I want to find an investor-friendly contractor, I'm like, so you're either saying you want somebody that's really cheap or knows what you don't know how to do, which is flip a house. I was like, both of those are bad. Like a really cheap contractor and somebody that you're hoping knows more than you, that's terrible. So whenever I hear somebody say, I want an investor-friendly contractor, I'm like, all right, you haven't done this before. It's going to be, you're going to learn. That's for damn sure. You're going to learn.
Well, and it's, you're very unlikely to find a contractor marketing themselves as an investor-friendly contractor. Like you said, what that means to most people is they just want it to be cheap because they're trying to, increase their profit margins. But it's not really what you want. You don't want necessarily the cheapest contractor because you'll probably have the cheapest looking work, and it won't, it's finding that line.
Well, so actually, like the biggest problem is not so much the cheap work, but they severely underbid the project. So when they start doing it, they realize that, man, I'm not going to make any money. So they start looking for other projects to kind of make up that difference. So now they're working less and less on your project, and they're doing other ones, So now your project that was supposed to take maybe 2 months to get done, you're on your 6th month and you still got another 4 months to go. So now that those delays and those problems get very, very hard to manage, and you start hemorrhaging money at that point. So I mean, that's a huge issue.
That's a good point. And obviously, it's cliche, but time is money. So if you can do these flips in 2 months versus 12 months, that obviously makes a huge difference in your ability to, sort of generate revenue. And also, if it takes 12 months, like the market can change, right? So you might have had, and we've been in a long sort of upswing market, but so a lot of people benefited from those delays, I think, during that time. But in reality, if you have any sort of pullback and you had projected that your flip was going to be sell for, however much it was 2 months later, and then it's 12 months later, that could be a very big difference in terms of what your margins are.
If you were thinking that you were going to get your property on the market by the summertime, which is like the hottest selling season, right? Yep. And all of a sudden, all these delays, now it's pushing you towards the fall, winter time. That pre-pandemic, that was a problem because, during the winter time, like it took longer to sell. You weren't getting, sometimes full price offers. Like you weren't getting so many people interested. Not many people were out there buying. Now, like you said, post-pandemic, I mean, summer, winter doesn't really matter. People are buying like crazy either way.
But again, those things might, those are all market cycles and conditions and things and can always change. So but the fact is, it's like if something that's supposed to take you 2 months takes 6 months or 12 months is that's a big deal in terms of your carrying costs, because you're probably paying something just to have that project going. So,
and if you're borrowing money, I mean, they'll lend it to you for a certain amount of time. So if you exceed that time, there's penalties a lot of time,
right? And
there's penalties that could be a point, over what you're paying for. There could be a bump up in the interest. I mean, there could be so many different things that all of a sudden you're looking to just sell just to be able to break even. Right. So, I mean, you can really get into some serious trouble, with not managing your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting that you sort of came from that contracting background, and now it turns out your partner's kind of managing that side of the business. So I think that's a good illustration of how, we may have an idea of what our role will be in a certain business or a certain partnership, but sometimes you kind of figure out through trial and error that maybe that's not your strength, or maybe it's someone else's strength, and you can, fill in another spot. So I think good for you for just sort of being able to make that pivot and do whatever whatever it, your business required, your growth required.
So he actually went to school for construction management for commercial construction, but he still, he knows about construction, knows all those things that have to do with renovating houses. But the great thing is that he likes it. He really enjoys, seeing a house go from ugly to pretty and finding the materials and finding the paint color schemes and all that. And it's funny, but like, it's something that I never cared about. Like I did construction because I had no choice. I couldn't go get a job. I couldn't go to school. I couldn't go to college. Like I didn't have any option. Construction was the only thing I could do. I always hated it. I mean, it was just something that I could care less about, but I knew it just because I had to do it, and luckily now we're at a point where I don't have to do the things I hate anymore. So
there you go. That's good. I mean, that's exactly what everybody wants out of this, right? Get to the point where you don't have to do the things that you hate. So that's a perfect point to make there. And actually maybe a good, sort of segue into the where I ask you the questions of the show that I ask every guest, because the first one is based on the name of the show being Know Your Why. And so, Jon, what's your why? What kind of motivates you? I mean, maybe it is just not having to do the things that you hate to do, but what do you feel, kind of really pushes you forward?
So it's actually funny. It's been changing as of recently. My why up until this point was survival. As a an illegal immigrant, our fear was always that something would happen, we would get deported. We could lose everything. I grew up in this country. I mean, I love this country. Yes, I was born in Argentina, but I don't know anything about that country, aside from that they have great food. Other than that, like, I don't know anything about Argentina. I pretty much have no love for that country. It's no different to me than any other country in the world. And my love is this country, but I wasn't really in a legal status here. So it was always that fear of, you got to work, you got to do more, you got to make money, because in case something happens, you need to be able to protect yourself and protect your family. So it's always been survival mode has been my why. It's like, I never stopped to really have a why. It was always just, I need to eat. I need to feed my family. And recently, in this past year or so, we got to a point where I've been at a point where I don't need to worry about money. Money keeps coming in. We're doing good. The business is good. It keeps growing. We're living very well. And I was like, so now I guess I could focus on what my why is, and it's been a big self-discovery process of trying to figure out what is it that I do like, and not so much of what is it that I need to do. And one thing that actually shocked me to find out is I love teaching. Like funny enough, from I guess high school dropout, terrible student, I love teaching people how to get started in real estate, how to grow their business, how to scale, how to, understand what their bottleneck is in their business, how to pivot, do things. Like, I love doing it. Nothing makes me happier. So I've kind of started focusing more on that, where I'm always meeting with people, helping people out, educating, doing videos, teaching people how we do everything that we do. And that's kind of my why now. Like, I want to be able to teach people that kind of that financial freedom from broke, and a lot of people always, especially like a lot of the rich people, they always make it seem, here's the path to financial freedom, but they never show that when they got started, they didn't follow that path. They busted their ass. They grinded. They worked their ass off. They're working, 24/7. They didn't have this balanced life or this, morning habits and morning rituals and all these expensive cold plunges and whatever they do, like they didn't have any of that. They just grind, and nobody shares that. Nobody shares it. Like, you just got to work your ass off when you're starting off. Like, it's not the ideal thing, but it's what has made pretty much everybody successful. Nobody started with with all this beautiful idea of a balanced life. Everybody started in chaos and worked their ass off and then worked through it and everything until they were able to succeed. And then they started realizing that's like, all right, this level of work can't be sustained to scale. So now you start optimizing your life. So I want to show people that it's like, hey, it's okay to go all in when you're starting off and to just grind and work, because you have nothing. Like, you kind of have to do that.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think a couple of things you said there, like really, you talked about, so you're initially your why was survival, and that was the same for me for a long time. It's like, it's funny to me because I hear people talk about house hacking as a real estate investing strategy. And I'm like, I just had to house hack so I could afford a house. Like, it was surviving. I didn't call it house hacking when I was like, I just couldn't afford it without having roommates. Like, that was it. So it's kind of like people put it out there as this like amazing real estate strategy. And it is, to be fair, it is a good way to get started and like cut down your expenses and things like it. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it. It's a good strategy, but it's just kind of funny that now it's like this, almost like a popular thing to do. I'm going to do house hacking so I can get into real estate. And it's like, yeah, get some roommates. That makes sense. Like, totally fine. Like, do something to have that, but
until they realize that they need roommates. And then they're like, wait, what do you mean roommates? No, I was thinking of finding a duplex or triplex, live on one side, rent out the other ones. They pay for my mortgage and everything. And then I just make money. And it's like, that's the ideal way. But it doesn't, to find houses like that you can live on one side, the other side pays for your mortgage. You're either living in the ghetto or you're found a hidden gem, because like I've been trying to do that. I tried to do that when I first got started. I've never found a property that did that for me.
Yeah.
You know,
and
like,
I think like maybe 10 years ago, maybe that was a strategy that worked, but it in today's prices probably hard to buy, sort of that multi-unit and have it. But I think if you bought a large multi-unit type thing, you could probably live in it rent free. But yeah, duplex, I'm not sure that works on its own anymore. Maybe in certain parts of the country. But the point being, like, it's not a bad idea. It's just doing something is better than doing nothing. But ultimately, yeah, you're probably going to have to work your ass off to get going. Like that's going to be the thing that gets you ahead to start. And then you figure out how to kind of, get people to help you with that growth and scale. But in the beginning, you're going to do a lot of it. People talk about don't work on your business, don't work in your business. But probably in the beginning, you don't actually have anyone else to work in the business. So you might have to do both. So it's just...
It's funny, even right now, I was just working on an Excel sheet. We were doing marketing. I pulled up a list of 112,000 properties in San Antonio that we're going to be marketing to. And I could outsource this, but I don't know what to outsource, because I need to look at the list myself. I need to look at the data points. I need to see how we're going to filter this. What are we going to hit first? How are we going to filter the list? I got to do that. I got to do that from experience. I know what I'm looking for. I know what I'm doing. And there's so many people that get started and they don't know what they're doing, and they already want to outsource everything. Right. And they want to, I want to work on my business. I was like, we all do, but you got to do the shitty work too. Like you got to do those Excel spreadsheets that you end up getting migraines on and running through all these lists and trying and everything. Because if not, how are you going to outsource something that you just don't know anything about? You haven't done.
Yeah. Yeah. You probably have to figure it out first and then get it in someone else's hands at least in a lot of aspects of it. That's going to be the case. I totally agree. Second question for you, Jon, tell us something about yourself that maybe isn't common knowledge, something, special skill or a hobby, something that you like to do that maybe not everybody knows.
Oh, so I don't have hobbies. I've always just worked because I just needed to do that. Man, it's a tough question. I have to say, like,
well, you did say you discovered that you like teaching, so that may be your newfound secret skill.
And I actually don't like real estate. That I think that's something that not many people know. I don't like real estate. I don't care for it. It means absolutely nothing to me. There's people that they love it. I don't. I love the business of real estate.
Sure.
But I don't care for the real estate itself. Like there's people that they love the flipping the house to put the subway tiles and the barn doors everywhere and do all that, which is great. I don't care for it. I don't care for the renovations. I don't care for what it looks like when it's done. I do not care. What I care about is the business of it. I care about how can I put systems and process together to generate these deals that are going to make us money? How do I put the systems in place that can manage the renovations so we can make money without having to go see every single one of these properties? How do I put the system so I can branch off into other markets and do the same thing? So that's what I like. But the actual, going to the houses and seeing, I never cared for it. Never interested in me. Never, means nothing.
You're not an interior designer. You're more of an operational guy. I get it.
But what is funny is that the majority of our projects, I do design them. I do have good taste in it. I don't like to do it, but I have an eye for it. And it's just because I've done so many projects in my life. I mean, I've renovated over 1,000 houses. I've seen this so many times that I can look at a project, I can look at a house and say, no, we need to do this tile, this color, this floor, this kitchen. It's it's so much experience doing it that I'm really good at it, but I don't like doing it. I don't like spending that hour in floor and decor picking out tiles and patterns.
Right. Well, with the experience, the design part of it has become systematized for you. It's
Yes.
you know what looks to get good together. You know what people like, and it's like it may not be a passion of yours, but you can say, this is what is going to appeal to the most people. We'll sell this quickly, that kind of thing. So, I mean, there's really something to be said for not necessarily having that emotional connection to the design itself, because you see it all the time on like the shows like on HGTV when they're sort of novice flippers and they want to do this like amazing design throughout the house, and they think it's amazing, and it might be amazing to them, but like, is it actually amazing to 30 or 40 other people that you want to come and see and have 10 of them put an offer? Like, if it's a very specific taste, it doesn't fit from a business standpoint. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
I always tell new investors when they're getting into flipping, I was like, remove the word "I like" from your vocabulary when you're renovating houses. It's not about what you like, unless you're buying your own house and going to move into it. Like, it's not about what you like. You look at comparables. What are the houses in the area doing and how they're selling? Mm-hmm. That's what you look at. That's what people like, not what you like. Nobody cares about what you like, So it's one of those things that, like, even when people say, "Oh, you have a good eye for these things," no, I just haven't experienced the eye that when I see this pattern, I'm like, that pattern goes with this pattern because I've seen that before in other houses that have sold. So it's nothing that I'm so unique at it. It's just that I've seen it so many times. I'm like, this goes with this goes with this, because that's how I've seen it put together, and it's worked. So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically, again, like recognizing what sells quickly and for the most, right? Like that, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It matters to you. It doesn't, like you said, it's not what you like. It doesn't matter what your opinion of that design is. It matters that the houses that get designed in that specific way sell quickly and for the most money. That's it. That's all that matters from a business standpoint.
And it's the same when you go look at a house. I have my acquisitions manager. She started working with us in October, and she would go to some houses. She's like, "Oh, but it was so gross. It was so ugly. And they had this paint color. It was hideous." And I was like, I don't care. Those things matter.
Yeah. Yeah. As a house flipper, that's probably a good thing. You're like, yeah, I want people to be turned off by it so that we can get it for a lower price. Like, that's at that point, you like that sort of undesirable design.
Exactly.
Yeah. It is funny how like people will sort of be emotional about it. When people hear this, Jon, and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
The best thing is, I'm everywhere on social media, but pretty much email is always the best way. Just Jon at PRYMEHomes.com is the best way. I make it a point to check my emails. Social media, whenever I get to it, I'll check it. But definitely shoot me an email. It's the best way.
We'll put that in the show notes for people. Final question for you. What advice would you give to someone who is getting started in real estate, kind of at the beginning stages? What would you tell them?
Actually, it's funny. I just got through having a meeting with this new kid that's getting into real estate. And he asked the same question: how do I get started? And I was like, you need to network. You need to get out there. You need to network. You need to find the people that are doing deals, that are doing volume, that are doing what you would like to do. And you need to figure out what that is, because through your network, you're going to be able to learn what the strategies are. Do you want to do single family, multifamily, commercial? What's working? Is it flipping, buy and hold, wholesaling, owner finance? You need to build that network and bring that value to the network. Everything I've done has been because of the people I know. It has not been because I'm the smartest person, or I just, I've read a book about it. Like everything I do, every time I jump into something new, I always have my network that I reach out to. I ask questions. What's the best way? This isn't working. What did I do wrong? Can we partner on this? My network has pulled me out of, a lot of jams. They've helped me go from simply wholesaling to flipping to building houses to owning rentals. Now we're getting into multifamily. Like it's been all my network that's been able to do that. So I tell people, really double down on that. It's definitely going to cut your learning curve tremendously.
Yeah, 100% agree. That is, and I really like the point that you made about sort of figuring out what you want to do, right? So a lot of people talk about, building your network as if you already know what you want to do, right? They're like, oh, if you're going to do multifamily, then build your network within multifamily. But the reality is there's a million different ways to make money in real estate. And if you're truly just starting out, like you really need to do some, soul searching is what's coming to mind. It seems a little bit too fluffy for just call it that. But basically you need to really get in touch with what you want out of real estate. What is your goals financially from a time investment standpoint, whatever that is. And so your concept of networking with people to figure out what that is, which of those, figuring out which of those components of real estate resonate with you is a really great point. I think, especially in that early stage of getting into real estate.
Yeah. You got to find what is it within this business that you're going to love to do, because anything you choose when you start off, it's going to suck. You're going to be I was door knocking, I was cold calling, I was doing all the things that, got people screaming at you, cursing at you. Yeah. It just sucked. It wasn't the best thing, but that was the route I needed to take. So, and it's the route everybody needs to take, because unless you come from a lot of money, you got to start at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And at the bottom, those are the best strategies to generate leads. So it's like, you got to grind, you got to hit the pavement. So it's like, if you hate what you're doing or you hate the business, you're not going to do those things, but when you love the business, you look at it, you're like, hey, this is just a part of it. I got to get it done. So.
Yeah, 100% agree. That's really good advice. Well, listen, Jon, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with everybody. I love it. I think a lot of really good points, especially for people starting out. Like, fact is, you're going to have to work hard. That's it. There's really no way around that. There's going to be a lot of work that goes into it, especially at the beginning, and honestly, probably even after that. Yes. So again, thank you so much for coming on.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, we will go ahead and sign off.
I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you.